Hi guys, Josh here, and even though I play dozens of different farming games every year, there's one specific series that I've always been curious about, but until now it always seemed a bit overwhelming to me, and that series is Farming Simulator. Well, Farming Simulator 23 Nintendo Switch Edition just came out, and their team reached out to me and offered to sponsor this video. So I decided to give it a try, and today I will be sharing with you some things that I learned along the way, some useful tips, and hopefully this should be a helpful guide for you if you're just getting started with Farming Simulator, or maybe you tried it in the past and felt overwhelmed, or if you're simply curious about what kind of game this is. Links are available in the description if you'd like to purchase Farming Simulator 23 from Amazon, Walmart, Target, GameStop, and Best Buy. Let's start. First, this might seem obvious, but do not skip the tutorial. This game is very different from your typical farming game, as it takes place in a modern, realistic setting, and all of the different machines and game mechanics can seem a bit complicated at first glance. Farming Simulator 23 improved its tutorial compared to past games in the series, and right as you start, you will have the option to be guided through the basics of farming, where you will learn how to cultivate, sow, and harvest crops. Don't overestimate yourself. Take a few minutes to go through the tutorial, as it will really help you in getting started. There's also a very useful help section in the menu that goes over most of the game mechanics, so I would recommend taking a look at it if you're ever unsure about how something works. That being said, the tutorial and the help section are not going to tell you everything, which is why I recommend you keep watching this video. And my next tip is to sell some of your starting equipment. You will notice that you start with pretty much everything you need to harvest grain crops. So you'll have 3 tractors, 1 cultivator, 1 seeder, 1 trailer, 1 harvester, and 1 header for your harvester. While you can make it work with this starting equipment, you will find that accomplishing anything in your field takes forever because everything is so small and inefficient. So I would recommend replacing some of that equipment. You can sell your cultivator, your seeder, your header, and I also sold one of my 2 Massey Ferguson tractors. By the way, if you're confused about the tractors, so you start with a John Deere. This one is the green one, and it has more horsepower, so it can carry heavier equipment. And you start with 2 Massey Fergusons. These ones are red. They're less powerful, but they go a bit faster, so I use them to make delivery or drive to different places. But at the beginning of the game, I would recommend selling one of them and just keep 1 green one and 1 red one. So when you sell stuff, you can do it in the vehicles page in the menu, but don't do that. It is instant and very convenient. However, you will get less money. And at the beginning of the game, every penny counts. Simply drive to the car dealership, put the vehicles you want to sell in between the markers on the ground, and sell them that way. Just carry those things one by one to the dealership and get your money. It will take a little bit of time, but it will be worth it. Next, be careful about what you buy. I know there is a ton of stuff you can buy in this game. In fact, there are over 130 different vehicles, and it can definitely be tempting to buy a cool machine to harvest grapes or a pickup truck to drive around in. I did those mistakes, and it's not worth it. In this game, pretty much every single activity, from raising animals to cutting trees to growing potatoes, will require a huge investment and different pieces of equipment. So I would recommend focusing on just grain crops at first, and don't buy something new until you know for sure what you're getting into, and you know that you have the money for all of the different pieces that you need. With that being said, here's what I do recommend buying with the money you got from the things you sold on top of the 100k you start with. First, get the Convio Flex 1080 header from Class. This one is 10.8 meters wide compared to 6 meters for the header you start the game with, which means you'll be able to harvest crops almost twice as fast. Then get the TerraSem C6F seeder from Pottinger. So previously you had 1 cultivator and 1 seeder, and you probably noticed during the tutorial how you had to first cultivate the field, then plant the seeds, right? So this one does both at the same time, which once again means it will be twice as fast. So with that, you now have the basics to grow some grain, but you should still have some money left. And it is really important to use herbicide and fertilizer. Used properly, those products will increase the yield of your crops by 80%, which will really help you make a lot more money. So in the vehicle shop, go in crop protection and buy the Mega 1200L. That's a machine to spray herbicide, and go to fertilizer spreaders and buy the ZA-TS 3200. That's something to spray fertilizer. Attach them to your tractor, go to the fertilizer tank to fill them up, and at that point you might be running a bit short on money, but fill whatever you can. They don't have to be completely full, and go back to your farm. If you walk on your field, you should have a window with some information on it. It will tell you the type of crop, the stage of growth, the fertilized percentage, a yield bonus if applicable, and if weeds are growing. Fertilize the field once, and you should see the fertilized percentage go up to 50%. Fertilize it twice, and it will go up to 100%, which is the maximum. However, you can't just fertilize a field twice in a row. It has to be done during different stages of growth. So for example, you could fertilize once before sowing seeds and once right after, and that would get you to 100% fertilization. After you harvest a crop, the fertilization will reset back to 0, so it is something you will have to do every time. If you have crops planted and you fertilized twice and sprayed herbicide, you should see a yield bonus of 80%, so make sure you have that bonus before you harvest. It will make a good difference. You may also notice that it says the soil needs plowing, but that's not really necessary until you decide to grow root vegetables. So you can ignore that and just keep an eye on if weeds are growing and make sure that everything is fertilized. Also, this might seem obvious as the game will give you a huge warning, but do not harvest during rain as it will drastically reduce your yield. Next, wait for the right season to sell. After you're done harvesting, do not rush to sell your crops right away. Go to the prices menu and look at the price fluctuations for your crop. For example, grains tend to go up in price near the end of the year, but each crop is different. So what I would recommend doing is to store your crops in your silo, wait for the best month to sell them, and once that month starts, look at the current prices to find a location that will buy them at the highest price. Also, there is a system of supply and demand in Farming Simulator 23, and if you sell too much of a certain crop, its value will start decreasing. This means that you should make sure to vary the crops you grow, and conveniently, there are 5 different grain crops which you have the equipment for, so alternate between those 5. If you just plant wheat all the time, its value will go down and it won't be worth it anymore. And if that happens, just leave it in your silo for longer and focus on other crops for a little while. Also, here is how time works in Farming Simulator 23. If you played other farming games, you're probably used to 1 month or 1 season being about 30 days. But things are a bit different in Farming Simulator 23. The year is divided into 12 months, but actually 1 month is only 1 in-game day. So if you see that a crop will decrease in value next month, you actually have 1 day to sell it, not 30 days. However, you can go into the settings to change the speed at which the time passes. By default, I believe it will be at 60x, which is extremely fast. And at that speed, it might be difficult to do all of the field work you need to do in 1 month. So what I would recommend doing is changing it to something slower like 5x or maybe even real time. Do everything you need to accomplish for that month. And once you're done, you can simply go to your house and sleep, which will skip to the next month. Also, don't forget to hire AI workers. If you want, you can certainly do everything by yourself and you will save some money, but some tasks can be tedious, and if you're trying to be productive, hiring workers will help you a lot. Simply start working on a field and press A to hire someone to do the work automatically. You can even set up workers to load and deliver products, for example, taking crops from your silo, selling them to a shop, going back to your silo, and so on in a loop. If you don't want to do everything by yourself, it is a good idea to always make sure all of your vehicles are doing something, and you do have to pay workers, but for me, having workers made the experience feel more pleasant and less overwhelming, since I could just focus on the things that I wanted to do the most, and progress was being done automatically on everything else. And my last tip for today is to buy some chickens. Most other animals will require more of an investment, but you start the game with a few chickens and taking care of them isn't too expensive. You can have up to 30 chickens and the adult ones are only $50 each, so I would recommend filling up your chicken coop with those as soon as you can afford it, so they can start producing eggs early. Just make sure they have food, any type of grain will work, and you should start seeing eggs piling up on pallets. You can buy young chickens for only $5 and it might be tempting, but they will take a few months to grow, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. You can also buy roosters, but they're not necessary, at least as far as I know. To sell the eggs, you will need to load them on a special trailer for pallets. You can buy it under pallet handling, and it's the PWO24, and it costs $29,500. You should be able to afford it after your first few harvests if you fertilized and sprayed herbicide properly, and you actually do not need a forklift. Simply attach the trailer to your tractor, go near the eggs and press R and A to fill up the trailer. Eggs won't make you as much money as crops, but they do not require as much work, and you will be able to use that same trailer for other products in the future. And that is it for my beginner's guide on how to get started in Farming Simulator 23. I know it can seem overwhelming at first, but I think that if you follow these tips, you will get off to a good start. You'll familiarize yourself with the basic game mechanics, and after a little while of selling grains and eggs, you should feel comfortable enough to venture into all of the other crops and activities that Farming Simulator has to offer. Once again, thanks to Giants Software for sponsoring this video. If you're interested in starting a farm in Farming Simulator 23, once again, there are links in the description. And thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you all in the next video.